Welcome, Sarah Uhl, to Home is Where the Dark Is. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you doing, Alex?
Just getting the day going. Got my latte, all recharged.
Nice.
All recharged from all the food from Thanksgiving yesterday, so I'm feeling pretty good. How was your Thanksgiving?
Oh, it was great. I just spent it with my family and ate way too much as usual, but it was really great. So it was very relaxing and
Besides turkey, what'd you have?
stuffing and green bean casserole and potatoes and gravy and what else? Pumpkin pie. What else did we have? Cranberry sauce. You know, the usual traditional like Thanksgiving meal.
Perfect.
Yeah, it was great.
So I know you're up in Northern California, but I keep forgetting the name of the city you're in. What city are you in?
Walnut Creek.
Walnut Creek. So how's that been?
Yeah.
You've been up there for a while now. How's that been going?
Yeah, I've been up here for when did I move? I think it was April of 2022. Yeah. So over 2 years. Actually, that was kind of the best decision I made was moving up to Northern California.
And why do you say that?
Well, at the time, as you know, I went through like a pretty horrific divorce. And I was living by myself. And it was, during the pandemic, like I had to move when lockdown started. So I was living by myself, which was fine. I didn't go out too much. I was hanging out with friends once in a while. And I was working because I'm also in IT. And I was like, what am I doing here? Like, why am I still here? And at the time, too, I was taking this class called The Science of Well-Being. And basically, it's taught by like a Yale professor, just finding what makes you happy and the science behind it. And so I was going through the class the first time, and I was like, yeah, I'm not really happy down here anymore. Like, I need a change. And so that's when I decided to move up to Northern California to be with my family. And definitely the best decision because I'm like really close with my nephew. I always call him my spirit animal. Mm-hmm. So I get to see him like all the time and hang out with my family all the time. And I just feel very safe with them. And, it's just being around people that you love the most. And they helped me through everything. So it was just the best. And I'm definitely happier up here for sure. And I was down in LA for like 13 and a half years before moving back up to Northern California.
Yeah, you definitely had a long chapter in LA. And yeah, I remember I really liked your apartment when you separated from your husband and you got your own place. Like that was a really nice place, but I totally understand like wanting to be closer to family, especially when you need support. It's like going through a divorce or breakup is insanely difficult, or it can be very, very hard. And so I totally understand that choice and that decision to, just be close to loved ones and have the support you need. So yeah, that makes perfect sense. So we spoke about it earlier, but since we restarted, I wanted to just say, firstly, congrats on your new single. And
Thank you.
How's the response been so far?
It's been really great. And we didn't really do like any promotion or anything. It was a long time in the making. We actually recorded it about 2 years ago, as you know. So we were just trying to decide, do we want to put out a single? Do we want to do all those songs together? And we've written some new songs too. So it was just like, well, let's just put it out and that's it. So, because we wanted to do a whole promotion of it and whatnot, but it just didn't happen. So we just said, just put out the single. But in the back end, I do meet with music supervisors. So I've been constantly listening to that song and putting it out there. And people are loving it. And actually, it's really funny because my nephew, we were having dinner and he stopped everyone at the table and was just like, Auntie Sarah, I love your new song. Like, I really, really like it.
Oh.
And I was like, oh, that's so great. It's funny because my target audience really isn't like the 8 to 12-year-olds. But for some reason, kids in that range really like the moodiness and angst, apparently. I don't know. But I was like, that's the validation that I need. My nephew saying that he loves the song. So, but it's doing really well. People are liking it.
I love it. Yeah. And it's because he can, he recognizes your voice and he likes your voice,
Yeah. Definitely.
Well, it's great to hear. Yeah. And, I think it's those 4 tracks we did. It's definitely, like, in my opinion, the best material from Eternally Yours so far. And those songs are really, they were really fun to produce and to record. And I think everyone did a great job. So I'm glad that, at least one of the tracks is out. So are you planning on putting the rest out as singles in the future or what?
Yes, we're going to put them all out as singles. That's what we decided on.
Nice.
So, yeah, it'll be good. And then probably finish up the songs, our newer songs, and then, get them recorded and whatnot and put those out as well. But yeah, those 4, they were actually really hard to sing in the studio.
Yeah?
Just sing to make, because it was, obviously breakups are really difficult. And just, I couldn't write for like a year at all.
Yeah. Processing grieving and processing that, that's completely normal. And I understand, like, a lot of artists go through that too when they're, going through a loss. It's like a lot of artists actually say, well, it's easier to write because you're full of emotion, but I think it just depends on, it's a case-by-case basis. And I've definitely, I definitely experienced that too, like going through a loss or a breakup, and like it's harder to write because you're just processing it and you're grieving. So it's like you feel kind of paralyzed for a bit. So
yes, definitely. I was like, dang it, I need my creativity back. And you want to write, but you do. It's like you just can't. It's like you have to process it first and then let it out. Or at least that was a process for me. I know everybody deals with things differently, but yeah, that was one hard part too, not being able to write anything.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So what did you do in that time of grieving? Did you just kind of just be with family and do some self-care? Like what was your healing process?
Oh man. It happened like during COVID, like at the beginning. Well, actually a little bit before COVID, but then COVID hit and everything was locked down. People weren't outside. I had to go to like lawyer's office and stuff like that. And when nobody was there, airports were deserted. But really it was really bad. And I was numb for a lot of it, kind of like walking around like a zombie.
Yeah.
But yeah, like hanging out with family, any friends I could see, FaceTiming a lot, because people weren't going out at the time. I'm okay with being by myself. So I think just kind of shutting down helped as well.
Yeah.
It actually took a long time to get over. Like I couldn't talk about it for like a year or so. And I forgot details of what happened and it would like come back.
Yeah.
And I'd be like, oh, wow, that happened.
Yeah, that's common. It's common part of like when you go through trauma, it's like your body's natural defense mechanism. Like this has happened to me too. Like when you go through dramatic or traumatic things, like your body protects itself and it kind of blocks out really bad memories but then they can reemerge later. So yeah. Okay. So yeah, I can relate to that. Like you're feeling numb, just kind of walking around. Like I understand like the feeling of walking around life kind of aimlessly, because when you go through a breakup, it's like it's like it's basically like someone died, but they're still alive, if that makes sense.
Yes.
And it's like,
no, I completely understand. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And it's like, losing someone, when someone passes away is extremely difficult and hard, but at least there's, most of the time you have that closure. But when you lose someone in a relationship, and they're still, walking around on Earth. It's like they're dead to you, they've died, but they still exist, and the feelings you have are still there, and there's still, it's like, it's, in my opinion, it can be a bit more difficult, at least at first. So it took you about a year to get over, or not to get over, but to grieve and to even talk about.
At least to talk about it. To talk about anything. It took that long. Yeah. And for me, like, I never got any closure at all. And this was a relationship like 12 and a half years, right? So it was a long time of my life, right?
Oh yeah. Wow.
But yeah, I didn't have any closure or anything. And sometimes you just have to be okay with not receiving closure, right? Like it took me a while to be like, oh, I'm not getting any closure. How do I deal with this? Right. And then it just, eventually you just accept it. And sometimes it takes longer and sometimes it doesn't. It really just depends. But for me, it took a while.
And when you say you didn't get closure, meaning literally like it was a super abrupt breakup and he didn't give you a reason why, or is that what happened?
Yep. Wow. Very abrupt, kind of out of the blue. There's a lot of crazy things that happen. I don't want to go into too many details. I mean, I can, but it was really like a bomb exploding. And the person who you were with is not the same person anymore. And you're just like, what happened?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I can totally relate. So can you maybe, just for, I'm curious, and I'm sure a lot of the listeners will be curious, like, could you maybe talk about some of the challenges you faced in a relationship, like a long-term relationship and then marriage, like dealing with the dynamic of your day-to-day with your partner, but also like being in the music industry and being an artist and, playing shows and that kind of a dynamic? Like, what were some of your struggles, if there were any struggles with that?
Well, actually, he was always very supportive of my music, and I think that helped a lot.
Yeah.
He loved it. But I think some of the struggles would be like, you're out playing a show and you're not getting back till like 2 a.m. or something, right? And if they don't go to the show, they're like, is everything okay? Just making sure, because he had a day job, obviously, so he wouldn't be able to go to every single show that we played. But yeah, there was definitely a lot of trust there in general. Good. I think I was lucky. I am innately an extremely loyal person. So yeah, I would get hit on by guys in the music industry, in and out of it. But like, I would never do anything to have him not trust me. Right. But that's just my personal thing. Like, I don't go anywhere. Right. So I think innately we definitely had a lot of trust built into that relationship. So.
Well, yeah, that's great to hear, because I know that's not always the case. You know what I mean? Yeah. Especially you're at least that was a positive part of the marriage, because I know so many I know so many couples where like, either both of them are extremely jealous or one of them is, and it just throws the trust isn't there, and like one person is extremely active and like going to shows or playing shows and out all the time, and the other person is like a 9 to 5 or whatever, and that really can really be challenging if there isn't that solid foundation of trust. So it's great to hear that you guys had that.
Yeah, I was very lucky, because I hear a lot of other artists go through something similar with trust issues, not having it there. So I've heard a lot of stories about it, but I was like, man, I'm very grateful and lucky that it was never really a problem in our relationship.
Yeah, it's great to hear that. Yeah. So now that you've had time to heal and to grieve and to reflect, like, what do you feel like, what is the, main purpose or the main thing you've learned, like coming out of your marriage and, kind of resurfacing, you know what I mean?
I think the main thing is, it's how do I describe this? It's like you go through something, like definitely the worst experience of my life ever, like hands down the worst. For me, it was worse than people dying, honestly. Worse than my loved ones dying, because I've been through that as well. But this was definitely the worst. It's amazing what you can go through, what your body can handle, what your mind can handle, what your heart can handle. And it's just, I'm getting emotional over here because it's a journey, right?
Yeah.
And some days you still think about it and you're like, dang, how did I make it through? Like, how am I still here? Right?
Yeah.
Because there were days where I was just like, dude, I don't know if I can make it.
Are you talking about,
I'm like, how am I?
Are you talking about during the marriage or after?
After. Yeah. I was like, what's going to happen? Like, because there's this inevitable, what am I going to do with my life? Like, you have to kind of reset, right?
Yeah, it's a rebirth.
Yeah, definitely. But it's amazing, like, what we can handle and still make it through. Like, it just boggles my mind.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, I've known you for a long time. When you said loyal, like you're very loyal and you're very resilient. So I think you're fortunate to have that kind of your personality is able to handle these type of things, but not a lot of people can. So I think just being able to be strong and push through the very torturous, hard times, just says a lot about you and your character. And you're a survivor, you're a fighter. So you're able to get through it, but not a lot of people. So most people like really, really, really struggle to get through, divorces and hard breakups when you've been with someone for so long and they've become a part of your identity and a part of who you are. And it just absolutely can crush people, and some of them never come back from it, and it's really, really sad. But
I get it. I completely get it. Like even now, like when I think about it, like I'm tearing up just thinking about it. But I wouldn't say it's not like a getting over process, right? It's more like, how do I heal this wound that will stay with me forever? Like, because you don't forget.
Of course not. Yeah.
It's still there, right? So I kind of like scar tissue. Like you're okay. Like you've been through battle, you've been through it, you came out the other side, but it still scars you, Of
course. Yeah. And, I don't know about how many, relationships you had before your marriage, but it's like, I found that from my experience in love and relationships is like every person you're with, you take a little bit of them with you throughout your life after you've separated, some a lot, some not a lot, but it's like, it's so important to, and there's when I look back on some of my past, like, just being young and dumb and not realizing how sacred and how important it is to really take the time to choose the right partner and do the best you can at that. But every single person that you spend time with and that you're with becomes a part of you in a way. So you really have to be extremely careful and extremely present in that. But we're all imperfect humans, so we all make mistakes. But yeah, I mean, thank you for sharing that. I know it's it's still sensitive stuff, but like I said, I've known you for a long time, and I remember like I saw you go through I saw you go through a lot in that marriage, and I was at your wedding and all that. So yeah, I appreciate you sharing all that.
Of course, yeah. And like I said, I don't mind talking about tough subjects. If you asked me to do this probably a couple of years ago, I'd be like, absolutely not.
Yeah.
But yeah, because, sometimes you just don't want to talk about past trauma and hurt, but it was like very serendipitous that you asked me, because I am ready to talk about it publicly too. So, if it helps somebody, then it's enough, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's kind of why I wanted to talk to you about this and, and have it on the podcast, because it's, everyone goes through these things, and it's, a lot of the time people feel like they're completely alone, like in their own little, in their own little cell of themselves, and they feel like they're completely alone. They have no one to talk to or no one to relate to. But the reality is, like, so many people are literally going through the exact same thing at the exact same moment. So yeah.
Definitely. And it definitely helps to have like family and friends, and you don't necessarily have to like talk about everything, but just like being around other people, I think helps too.
Absolutely.
To have support.
Yeah, you need that support, you need that warmth, and even if you're or someone is there just to listen, that's really all we need, is just someone to listen. And, some people will try to like, it's not even that we don't want a response, but sometimes it's just like, just be there to listen and absorb it. And, that's extremely helpful. Have you been in touch with Gene and Lewis and everyone through this process? Like, have they been there for support?
Oh, yes, definitely. For sure. Yeah. I've talked to Gene about it. I talked to Lewis about it. My friends, family, they definitely helped. Yeah. And it helps when you're like genuinely love your bandmates, you know? Because they would just be there, and I would just start talking, and they would listen, We actually went out, it was earlier this year in February. We went out to Palm Desert, and we got an Airbnb house, and then just hung out, wrote some songs. It was very old school style of writing songs, and we busted out 8 of them. So it was awesome. But just like having them there too really helped.
Yeah, I love it. It's so important to, going through life, as long as we can hang on to a handful of people that have always been there, that are loyal, and they've seen you go through your ups and downs, and they're there for you and you're there for them. Like, we don't really need that much. There's people that is like, oh, like they put out like how they have like hundreds of friends. It's like, no, you don't. You know what I mean?
No, you might have acquaintances, but there are certain people in your life who will be your ride or die.
Exactly. Yeah.
And you're lucky if you have one. Because I lost a lot of people who I thought were my friends.
Really?
Yeah.
After the divorce?
After the divorce, yep. Didn't ask how I was doing, like nothing. And it's crazy, because you're like, wow, I guess I was more of a friend to them than they were to me. So, and that part, no one really talks about it. Actually, some of my friends joked. It was kind of funny. She was like, I'm so glad we got you in the divorce. Oh. I was like, oh my gosh, you're the best. But yeah, no one really says that. Like, you lose people who you thought were friends, right?
Yeah.
That you just never talk to again.
Yeah, that's another hard thing that you have to go through during a breakup or a divorce, is like, okay, now, people gonna choose sides, unfortunately, and it's like having to find out who is really with you. I know that can be really hard as well, and like you don't just lose the person, you lose sometimes you lose family and acquaintances
family,
through
yeah.
that. Yeah.
That actually hurt probably the most.
Yeah.
Losing like nephews and nieces.
Yeah. Sarah, thank you so much for sharing this. I know it's sensitive, but I think just having this conversation with me is like people are gonna hear it, and it's gonna help a lot of people, and they're gonna be grateful that you were brave enough to share. And
they're not alone. Like, we go through it, and grief isn't a linear motion. It's cyclical,
Yeah.
It could be all over the place. You don't know. Like, one day you're like, oh, I'm feeling great, and the next you're like bawling your eyes out, and that's okay too. And everyone grieves differently, but we all go through loss. We all go through grief, so we're not alone. And there's some comfort in that.
Yeah, you're so true. So to wrap it up, I want to ask you. So far in your life, you've accomplished so many things. You've played in bands. You've made some great records. You've developed amazing friendships and relationships. Have a great family. So now, at this point in your life, after everything you've been through, all the good, all the bad, what do you feel? What do you feel is your purpose?
Oh, I feel like every day you're finding something new. Honestly, if I didn't go through my divorce, I wouldn't, be around my nephew so much, and I wouldn't have seen him grown up. I'm definitely made to be an aunt. That's for sure. And personally, I love traveling, so I travel quite a bit. But yeah, one of the biggest things is I personally love helping people with whatever, right? So if I can help one person, then that's perfect for me. Like, that's really all I need. Yeah, working is fine. I love music. Obviously, we're still going to continue making records, etc. But honestly, it's just, I just love helping people, whether it's through music, through my work, through charity, whatever. I want to make other people have some glimmer of hope, right? So any way I can achieve that, I'm there for it.
Love it. All right, Sarah. Well, thank you so much for coming on and for the conversation. I'm looking forward to you guys releasing the new singles, or the remaining singles, and to hear any of the new music you've written. And it's been such a great pleasure to share the creative process of music with you. And you've gone through so much with your project, and I've seen the ups and downs, and I've seen everything so far. And
we keep coming back to you because you're awesome, Alex.
Well, thank you. And, what I'm getting at is, like, it's been great to know you and to see you grow. Same. And to see your progress. And I'm really grateful for our friendship, and for Louis and Jean, for everything you guys have done. So I really appreciate your trust in the creative process, and I appreciate you.
Thank you, Alex, so much. And the feeling's mutual, definitely. You've been around for so long, and you've been, like I said, loyal, and you've just been amazing. So I'm here for you whenever you need, right? So thank you for allowing me to know you. So I really appreciate that.
Oh, likewise, Sarah. Okay, well, that's going to be it for the episode, guys. Please check out, Sarah, where can everyone get a hold of you on social?
Usually on Instagram. I don't post a whole lot anymore because I've kind of not been doing a whole lot of that recently.
Yeah.
But yeah, Instagram, Eternally Yours Band on Instagram, at Uhle. Yeah, I'm not really on TikTok. Facebook I'm on sometimes, but all of our music is on, like, Apple Music, iTunes, the usual platforms. So
perfect. I'll put a link. I'll put a link in the notes so everyone can check it out and get in touch.
Yeah, definitely. People can reach out to me if they need. So that's not a problem.
Okay, great. Sarah, thank you so much for coming on Home is Where the Dark Is, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye, everyone. Appreciate it.